Welcome to Entrepods, the most cutting-edge podcast for entrepreneurs and investors. We answer the hottest question today. So now what? We are radically civilized with a focus on durable solutions that make the most positive impacts in your business, financial, personal, and community life. The world right now belongs to entrepreneurs. Today, we'll show you through our expert conversations that matter, the limitless opportunities you have right now to live the life of your dreams. The best version of you and your business starts now. Welcome to Entrepods.
Hello, Entrepods. Welcome to the show today. So we have someone that I absolutely love. He has about 25 years in the construction. He does construction and multifamily, and he does it both ways. He does it from people who like cash box money to the people who like long-term investments. And I always learn a whole lot from him. Now, he's originally from the Midwest, and he still lives there part-time, but he's moved to Puerto Rico. And so some of the times when I talk to him, he's got this gorgeous backdrop and it's just absolutely amazing. So you will be able to see him in June in Miami at the Money Show. And then in July in Idaho. He's got so much coming up to give education to all of our real estate investors or to any of our entrepreneurs out there who want to learn more about investing. And because we're all trying to pivot during these crazy, wild, wonderful times. So everybody, welcome to the show, Shannon Robnett. Shannon, welcome to Entrepods. I'm so excited to get to speak with you.
Jennifer, it's great to see you again. I always love talking with you as well. Your energy is so positive, and what you bring to your listeners is truly amazing, and you do such a great service for them. So I'm just happy to be a part of it.
And now y'all know why I love him, because he's so complimentary. You must have a lot of women in your life, Shannon, because you really know how to do that well. That just makes my head, it's so big, my headphones won't even sit on here anymore. Anyway.
I did make some people say that I did it right. Some people say that I did it wrong, but women control all of my life. My accountant is a woman. My bookkeeper is also a woman, and then my beautiful wife. So anywhere I want to go to get money or to use money, I have to ask. So it keeps me on the straight and narrow.
Boy, that really does. So there's your tip, guys. That's how you can be wonderfully famous and live on an island, a tropical island, and jet around the world like Shannon. Just have women control the money. Anyway, so you have so much going on right now. So tell me, so here, when we're taping this episode, a lot of states have started to open up again. I'm here in Texas, so we're open for the most part. And we're starting to think about, like living our lives again in normalcy. And a lot of people are rolling with what's happened, financially and in the markets, and especially in investing. So because you are definitely completely plugged in, tell me a little bit about what you've learned this time, and then maybe some projections. What should we be looking at as investors for going forward, some trends and things?
Well, one of the things that we have is we are vertically integrated. So I own my property management company, and I think a lot of people learned that during COVID, that your property management company is integral to your success. But the other thing that a lot of people learned is know the laws of your state and your local jurisdictions about how landlords are viewed versus tenants. A lot of states like New York, where the landlord is not viewed as the one to be protected. It's all tenancy laws. It's very important that you understand the laws that allow you to operate. We in Idaho are a lot like Texas, is that we are open back up. During the whole time, construction was considered an essential business. But during that time, you've also seen, I just got an email newsletter from Joe Fairless. He's got $2.8 billion of multifamily under management. He was the one that stated that number one market for rent appreciation March to March was Boise, Idaho, my hometown. And we took a 16% increase in rents. We had no more vacancy than normal. And one of the things that our property management company did, we personally did, was we met with our tenants that got into trouble. And instead of meeting with them to go, hey, what can we do to make you get caught up? We met with them and we said, hey, we know where the resources are. Let's set up a socially distanced conversation and let's get you plugged into those resources. And through that, with about 2 hours of the time of my property management personnel, we were able to get each and every tenant signed up for assistance, and we kept our rent collection at 100%. So we did
Wow.
not have any of that. But that goes back to, that really speaks volumes to who your property manager is, right? Because if
Mhm.
your property manager is tied to your NOI, your net operating income, then they are going to be there for you to make sure you do that. But they had to give up 2 hours per tenant. I think we had 10 or 12 tenants. So that's 25 hours. They charged me for it, but who would have thought that, right? Who would have thought that, hey, I've got to do what my landlord needs, not what my property management company needs. I need to go out there and I need to spend more time during this uncertain time to make sure that my job is protected. And that's the mentality you want with your property management company. And then you
Mhm.
also want to exist in a state that has landlord laws, that are favorable to landlords as far as evictions go, as far as moratoriums go, as far as, what's really happening, because people did get in trouble, right? And
Mhm.
landlords aren't evil. Tenants aren't evil either. They've been painted that way by the media to a large degree. Everybody has their own version of it. But in the end, we were all about getting our rent collected, and our tenants, they are our customers, and we knew that we had to take care of them as well. So we were able to do that and come up with a great solution. And we stayed full through COVID. We had same rent collection as last year, and we were able to do that while taking, I think, better than normal care of our tenants, because my property management team is just simply awesome.
Boy, that's an incredible thing. And it really speaks to the heart of being proactive in times of crisis,
Yes.
and thinking about it from the client journey. As real estate investors, we're also entrepreneurs and business owners. And the client journey is important for us as it is for any other company, for an app or a software company, or if you're selling jewelry or anything else. How is because this is your reputation, of course, in the market. So these clients, and of course these tenants that are living there, they're going to remember these things. They're going to write down the names of these companies. They're going to go on social media and talk about it. And so now you have this situation where it's going to be a much more pleasant experience, where they're not terrified that they will become homeless or a roof won't be over their head. That causes people to get very violently angry on social media, and they get destructive and everything else, because you're tearing they feel that even
Right.
though it's the government and everything else that's going on, they have to have, they can't go to Washington D.C.
Well,
And we
and
know what happens to people who go there.
right.
So you can't go there. So they pick a target. So this was really, really wonderful that you were able to do that. And tell me a little bit about the property managers themselves, and what hand you had on picking them, or who in your team, knew who to pick for that.
Well, Jennifer, one of the things that I know is you can teach anybody anything, and I'm walking proof of that. But it's culture, it's who they are as a person, and so we pick our property management team based on whether or not they fit uh, the way we do business, the way that we are. We put our tenants and our owners first, and we know that good business will bring good business, which most entrepreneurs know that, right? Or they're not entrepreneurs very long. But they sing songs about Wendy. I mean, they make her blankets about in the apartment complex. I mean, they absolutely love her.
That's sweet.
But one of the things that a lot of people do that I believe isn't correct is property management people are not trained. They're not typically highly skilled. Usually an entry level property management position starts at $15 an hour, and top end will be 40,000 a year. We start our people at 50, 55. Because we
Wow.
want the best and we
Mhm.
want their best, right? Because when you have I can replace this job asking if you want fries for that, then you get that mentality and it shows up at work, right? So we have a can do. What can we do to make this experience better? How can we deal with this? I mean, we literally had during the pandemic, we had people showing up from California with U-Haul vans full of their earthly belongings, nowhere to live, but said, you guys were the only ones that answered your phone. So we came here. We're going to rent from you. You tell us when you're going to have a vacancy. We're going to be in the hotel down the street. And
Really?
we literally, I swear, that is a true story. We literally had that happen twice. And it was because we simply answered the phone, right? We simply answered the phone. We simply called people back. Even though we had the same story as everybody else, I don't have any vacancy, right? But we simply took care of business the way a business should be tended. And we were able to create that. The other thing that we did was when we were looking at this, and this is where a lot of entrepreneurs, they solve problems, right? That's why they're entrepreneurs. Tenants aren't entrepreneurs. They're not naturally problem solvers. A lot of them, when the proverbial shit hit the fan, they didn't know what to do. And a lot of times when our property management team came in and said, hey, this is what we can help you with. This is where your resources are. This is where the food bank is. This is what's going on. They were so relieved to have somebody in their life that actually could help them get through the day, the week, the month. That, I mean, like I said, we have people that, I mean, literally think the absolute world of, my team, Leanne and Wendy, and I'm not going to give you the last name because I don't want anybody hiring them away from me, but that's because they truly are phenomenal. But again, back to what entrepreneurs do best, you solve problems. And one of the easiest way to solve problems is to find people that love what they do and pay them well to do it and leave them alone.
Yeah. That you're absolutely right. And I love this. And I was talking to somebody else about this. They were getting into a fight about, the attitude that we can't hire anybody because nobody wants to come back, and they're telling us that they make more on unemployment. Well, I know how much unemployment is. And I'm like, yes, but when you think about that, maybe this is the time to have the discussion on wages and how you were treated, because I know people who would do anything to go back to work. They love their job. They felt that they were treated well. And this guy, and he was outside of Chicago, and he says, we pay $15 an hour for some sort of kind of labor position. And I said, $15 an hour. And I just looked up, rents. And I said, that person would not qualify for a 1-bedroom apartment, anyone in your area, because a 1-bedroom apartment, they will only qualify for $800 a month. Right. So and they won't qualify for something else at $15 an hour. So you're going to need something around the $600 to $800 range. And where he lived, average rents were $2,300 a month, $1,900 to $2,500 with an average of $2,300. I said, that's why you're having the problem.
Well, and Jen,
and so, but they won't think critically like that. Right. And I'm thinking,
but you can't expect people to think about your business when all they're thinking about is how they're going to pay their rent, how they're going to make their car payment, how they're going to put food on their table. You're supposed to alleviate that problem. And it doesn't mean that as a business owner that you have to do it. But I can tell you, if you want that section of their brain that critically thinks, that gets stuff done, that accomplishes tasks, you have to pay to buy that. And you buy that by paying rent on it, essentially, that gives them the opportunity to not have to worry about their car payment, not have to worry about their house payment, right? I mean, it doesn't mean we can solve hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills, and no, not everybody gets to drive to work in a Lamborghini. And we're not dealing with the entitlement attitude that some people have. We're dealing with the basic needs, right? And I think that a lot of this is where we get into, government gets involved and they say, well, you're going to go minimum wage, and then everybody's entitled to that. And there's people that aren't worth minimum wage. Let's just be honest, right? But we get so caught up in the fact that you've got to bring, let's call him Lou, along at $15 an hour. He's worth 12, and you got Sarah there that's killing it. You'd like to pay her more, but you have to keep Lou around because you got to have somebody hold the dumb end of the board. And so now you've got these two people. One is getting penalized by the minimum wage. One is getting something he doesn't deserve by the minimum wage. And the business owner has to figure out how to get more Sarahs than Lou's, right? And so what I've always found is you just step above the fray, because if you look at what bad employees cost you, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in the lifetime of their employment. Training a new employee in my business in property management is going to cost me 40 grand a year, or 40 grand to train, right? So I'm out 40 grand. I might as well get somebody that $60,000 gets me a professional, somebody that shows up dressed for work, shows up, knows what a clock is, shows up on time, doesn't have excuses, and can be there day in and day out. And then I can train them to be a property manager. I can train them to be a NASA launch specialist if I want to, if they've got the basics, right? And so then you can I've never had the issue of having government have to dictate to me what I pay, because I've always decided that I'm going to pay you more than the competition. So I don't have to worry about you leaving. I don't have to worry about somebody hiring me away from you. I don't have to worry about you driving down the road thinking about how you're going to pay the rent while you rear end somebody in my company rig, right? So I've always known you rent their mind. And if you're not paying enough rent, they're going to get roommates.
Yeah.
And those roommates are the bills.
Yes. And I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I still do my coaching, and I do one-on-one, I do some group coaching, and I help people bootstrap it. Right. So these conversations to them, they're like, but I need to make this. And I want to tell you, as an entrepreneur, when you are so focused on your paycheck and you're like, I'm not even making 60. Well, that's a problem. You cannot scale and grow unless you start to really think about getting funding, getting in there, getting some skin in the game. I talk to a lot of people who are just real hobbyists. They have this dream, they have a passion, but when you actually talk about their commitment level, it's not a 10. It's not, I'm going to go to the bank, I'm going to start to talk to people, I'm going to do what I have to do because I know I need this help. Right. It's usually around a 6 or a 7. They like to complain, but they're not going to hire anyone. They're certainly not going to pay them. Or what I see people get in trouble with, Upwork and Fiverr, and wanting to pay $3 an hour for someone, because every single time I've worked with anyone, and I've done huge scale ups. I took a company of 3 people to 221 people in 21 countries in 18 months. That's the largest company I ever scale I did. That was the most aggressive. Right. And I got to tell you, it was a constant fight with strategic HR. And we spent, like you said, hundreds of thousands of dollars on low wage people because we were quote unquote saving money when I could. And eventually I replaced all of those people with US based or Western European based higher. I would pay $50 an hour for 3 hours of work. And I would have ended up, so that would have cost me $150. Right. Well, conversely, I would have had a $3 an hour person charges $500 to $700 an hour because of edits and time and not being able to reach them and time zone errors or customers not being happy. It's just, don't take it from, it doesn't matter if you're in startup phase or you're in Shannon's phase. Take it from me. You're going to want to make the right investments right off in the beginning. And if you can't, you need to think about that or take that on, but you need to have a scale plan for that.
Well, and Jennifer, the thing that a lot of people confuse is they confuse price and value. Price has nothing to do with value, right? I remember when I was starting my construction company, and it was me and a couple of guys, right? And I was sitting there, and I knew that I could grow my company, and I found the guy that I wanted, and I knew he had everything that I needed. He was a former LA County steel inspector. He was college educated. He was everything that I needed for my company. And I approached him and I said, "What does it cost to hire you?" And this was back in, I think, 2001 or 2002. And he said, $75,000 a year. And I went back and I looked at my books, and that's what I was making. That's what I was making owning my company. And I hired him. And I knew that what if he did my job, I could go get 3 more jobs, bring them in, and he could handle those as well. While I went and got 3 more jobs. And that's exactly what we did. And we grew that company from, 4 of us to 40 of us in 5 years, because I was willing to pay him what I was making, which put me in a very, very scary spot, right? Which means that day one, when he started, my butt's on fire because I got to go find something to feed this thing. And in construction, nothing is tomorrow. Everything is 4 months, 5 months down the road. And so, but we got this going, and it has to do with, I could have hired somebody at $30,000 a year. I could have hired somebody at $50,000 a year, but they weren't going to do what you're talking about that he did, which was cover me soup to nuts on everything inside the office. So all I had to do was go out, shake hands, make friends, find construction deals to bid, work with new clients, get relationships built. And from there, I was able to scale that. And I see that mistake happen all the time. People want to pay $7 an hour. And I guarantee you, you'll pay $30 for said item.
Yeah.
Just like you would if you hired somebody that is in your office, you're looking at face-to-face, you'll pay the same price. But what did the delay cost you? Mm-hmm. Instead of having it done, like you mentioned, in 3 hours, it took you 3 weeks. What could you have done with 3 weeks in your life? We're not talking about being on the last 3 weeks of your life, but we're talking about 3 weeks of your business life. In my typical construction project, we're burning anywhere between $1,000 and $6,000 a day in interest. So when you start looking at what it cost, I've made that mistake before. I've hired the cheap framers, that were $300,000 more or less than the other guy, but I wound up paying $279,000 in interest. Plus I pulled
Wow.
my hair out for 2 months, right?
Mhm.
So it's all relative. And the biggest thing you can do is mistake that thought that price and value are equal, because they're not. They never are.
That is a very good quote. In fact, I'm going to clip that out because that is so important to notice, especially if you're struggling or you have fear. And I love the fact that you admitted it was a scary situation when you hired
Terrified.
that guy. Yes, because sometimes you have to put yourself in that fear and you have to have faith in the plan. And
Right.
so you need to have a plan. My plan is to scale. My plan is to go and to do this. And I know you had to hit the ground running. You didn't hire someone so you could sit back on your laurels, because that would not have worked. So sometimes we have to do that, and you have to have the plan, guys. And if your plan is, well, I'm going to hire someone to retire, well, then that's going to be a very different scenario. And you need to
Yes.
be honest with yourself on that. So tell me a little bit about these wonderful events you have coming up. You're going to be in June in Miami at the Money Show, right?
Yeah, so we have found a good partnership with the Money Show, where we're able to be in an expo environment and talk about our syndications, our limited partnership opportunities for people to get rid of the toilets, tenants, and trash.
Yeah.
Join us in professional grade multifamily projects, where we provide everything from the design expertise to the construction expertise, leasing, all of those kinds of things, and we manage that asset as a general partner. And in doing that, we're providing strong 20 to 25% returns for our investors. And we're now launching a fund that is based on Boise real estate. And so we're taking that show literally on the road. We're going to Miami to meet. It's an investors forum. And so that's going to be with the Money Show. And then we're also doing a real estate event here in Boise, Idaho. It's called Real Estate in the 208. Or investidaho.com. You can find it there. But what we're doing is we're bringing real estate to everybody. There's a lot of people that get the infomercials and they do this deal and they get a coach and they do all this stuff, but they really don't simply understand how that directly applies to the market they live in, right? So you're getting a coach that's based in Cincinnati and you live in Tallahassee, right? They both sound really cute, but they're not the same market. And so what we're doing is we're bringing in national names in the short-term rental space, in the lending space. And we're talking about why Idaho is a great place to invest in. And then we're dealing with local events in local people that can show you opportunities to put that information to work right here, as well as the newcomer that's coming here going, I don't understand the market. How do I get involved in this market? Where are the deals at? How can I become a part of this real estate community? And so we're really finding that bringing community together, the last year has showed us how much we as people need people.
Yes.
We need to be involved with other people in Zoom meetings. I mean, I'm done with Zoom meetings, right? I mean, I was doing Zoom meetings from the island for 2 years before people figured out what I was doing. They just thought I didn't want to drive across town. And then they figured out what I was doing. And now everybody does it, but I'm done. I like meeting people in person. I like shaking their hand. I like getting to know them. I like sitting at the table, having lunch with them and figuring out what makes them tick. So there's a lot there that I want to know about people. And these events are phenomenal because you get the new investor sitting at the table next to the seasoned investor, listening to somebody that's a specialist in a certain area. Their swim lane is, fix and flips. Their swim lane is wholesaling, and being able to really hear how those wholesaling things work in the market that we live in is an amazing thing. And so we've done a couple of these events before, and we're doing them more and more because we see that people need to be face to face with the people they're learning from.
They do, because there are so many markets you can go on to, online. And I talk about this all the time. You've got Bigger Pockets, you've got Connected Investors, you've got all these different avenues and apps, but it's overwhelming and there's so much noise online. And there's a lot. I mean, I particularly like Zoom. I've been doing it for a decade, or like when Zoom first came out. So I'm like used to this. This is just another thing, but I too miss the peoples.
Yeah.
Because when you're sitting in front of somebody, you smell, right? You can smell them, you can look at them, you can notice the little things, there's not a filter, it's real. It's back to, well, I don't want to say back to normal. We're going to have a new normal, but I think it's going to be better. It's going to be more hyper vigilant and more, I think, appreciative of the people and life.
Yeah.
I think in many
Completely
ways
agree.
need this. I've been talking to certain clients, and this one gentleman in particular out of California, and he owns a company there. He's doing very well. His wife was doing very well. And I said, so how are you doing, with everything going on? This was a while back. So this is still in the midst of it. We were all really locked down. And he goes, honestly, I don't want to go back to the way it was. I had no idea of how much I was missing of my kids and their lives. He goes, we have like real conversations now.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how overscheduled we actually really were.
Right.
And my wife was overscheduled the kids. And he goes, I thought we were happy. They're doing well. They were doing well in school. It's not like we had any problems. He said, but now, as stressful as it can get with all of us just here and, we're bored and stuff. He goes, we've become creative. And I don't want to go back to the other way. I talked to another guy in New York, and he has 3 kids. They've got, of course, a New York apartment, and he said, he goes, this is driving him nuts. We're moving to New Jersey as soon as this is done. We're getting some space. He said, but at the same time, I really decided I really love my family.
Yeah.
And he said, and we're in the midst of everything's very negative. The place he lived in was very negative, like it was a negative atmosphere. And he said, I didn't realize, because we're all blowing and going all the time, how negative it was. So I think a lot of people are getting a lot of aha moments all over the country. At least
we're seeing that in Idaho a lot. People are flocking here from the West Coast. It's funny when, San Francisco is beautiful, but when you're in San Francisco with 7 million of your closest friends and you can't go outside, things change rapidly, right? I mean, we saw a friend of mine's a mortgage broker. He did a mortgage for a guy that was living in a 700 square foot apartment for $3,500 a month, came here to Idaho, bought a beautiful house right on near the river that runs through town. I mean, he lives a totally different lifestyle now. He went from 700 square feet to 3,500 square feet, same money. And took his job with him, and he's got wide open spaces. He's got ski resorts 45 minutes from town. He's got, bike trails and hiking trails and lakes and all those things that, you don't have in San Francisco. 45 minutes, that's going to get you 4 miles down the road? I mean, with traffic,
I was in San Francisco in February, like 2 years ago. It was like right before everything like really got crazy. And I was blown away, number one, by how beautiful San Francisco was, the architecture. But then, and we were right downtown. We were staying at the Hotel Triton, which if you ever go there, stay at that hotel. It's right near the Chinese gates. And we were there for for New Year. So we had we were in the stands, and that's the 8th largest parade in the entire world. So we had these massive thermoses filled with wine. It's me and my best friend. And we were having a good time. Oh yeah. And then there's a fabric shop right across the street. And so I still have this blanket. I just had him cut me fabric because it was so cold. And we were the warmest people there. And we got toastier and toastier. Let me tell you, I was having fun, ridiculous fun. But what we went everywhere, and thankfully nothing bad happened to us, because we ended up walking in areas where people were like, you walk through there at 3 a.m. We're like, yeah, I don't remember.
They knew better than to mess with 2 toasted women holding a blanket. I mean, they had no idea
my
what
friend,
they were up against.
You know what she did? She held a fork in her hand. She had a plastic fork, and she said, I'm going to fork them with the fork. That's how wasted we were. Anyway, and I think she's scary though. She's really scary. And but I couldn't believe that how you're walking and you have this one glorious street, and you're like, oh, that's so beautiful. Every house looks like it was just carved from an architect's mind. And then the next street, same houses, and then tents and needles. And I thought, how did this street like lose the straw? And the people are prisoners in their houses, these $10 million houses that, like, I could not get over the blight. And my driver had come from Syria, from Uber, just down, and the trash on the side of the road, just from the airport. And he said, yeah, I'm moving out of here. We're going to move to Texas or somewhere else. I was like, please don't vote the same way.
Right. You
we
see
have
that a lot.
bumper stickers. Don't California my Texas. Like don't take the same thing that made it like that. I don't know. I get worried when people say, yeah, people from the West Coast are coming over, because I just don't.
And the thing is, we all appreciate the wide open spaces, but we need to appreciate what left them wide open. How they came to be that way. There's a lot we can learn, both good and bad, from San Francisco, LA, New York, I was talking to somebody this morning and they were talking about New Jersey is actually the highest property taxes in the nation, and they're paying 2% of the value of the home in property taxes. To give you a relevant
Whoa.
idea, in Idaho, we're 0.018, right? We're not
Right.
even 0.2%, and they are a full 2%. And I just said, you
That's
guys did this
insane.
to yourself slowly. And now it's kind of like,
You
politics
can't
and
unring
power.
the bell.
You
That's what's
can't.
crazy.
You
You
can't.
can't once you install that sort of system, you can't unring the bell.
And the
it's
reality is New Jersey
crazy.
is suffering huge from infrastructure problems.
Yeah.
All of the things, their schools are terrible,
Mhm.
both the physical structure and the learning inside. And so you've got all these taxes that were supposed to fix that aren't fixing it. And now you need more taxes. Where are you supposed to go from here? 2% you're paying of the value of your $1 million home means you're paying $20,000 a year in property taxes. Where here
That's
in Idaho,
insane. That's
that
insane.
would cost you, through what, $2,000, right? I
Right,
mean,
right.
it's ridiculous. So
Well, see, in Texas, we have such a high sales tax that takes care of. I mean, it's 8.25% sales tax. We're paying on everything. Now we don't file taxes at the end of the year like everybody else, but we're paying. I
you don't have
mean,
an income tax, but your property tax is also higher than ours as
yes,
well. I mean, we
yes, it
have
is.
and so it all comes out in the wash. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
you can't hide it. You still have to pay for roads and stuff like that.
right.
But, it's back
But
to the,
accountability on where it goes. They have the
absolutely.
accountability project of where money goes and
Yeah.
different things. I go into that website all the time and I'm always just horrified at the spending. Like there has to be a lot more accountability. And what's really bad is, and we're getting off topic here, but censorship, like on social media and different things like that. Yahoo, like they've cut off all comments. If you've noticed this is a concerted effort to systemically shut down any dissenting voices that are calling for any accountability.
Right.
So you have entire articles, some of which are just written by bloggers who have no idea what they're talking about or patently false information. And they could just need to go back and put teeny tiny little letter and say, oh, by the way, none of this is true a month later. And when you take off the comments, you don't have people saying, hey, this is ridiculous or whatever. And so I've noticed that happened right before the election on Yahoo and most major outlets. They turned off. There's no way to comment on anything.
Right.
And it's actually in industrial, like governmental and media, they're not going to be held accountable for anything anymore.
Yeah.
And I think we need to push back on that as people in a nation and everything else.
Well, and entrepreneurs, especially,
yes,
I mean, the reality is a lot of the laws that we have that are anti-business are because business owners were too busy working on their business instead of defending their business. And there's so much that needs to happen at a state and local level with entrepreneurs. Let's not worry about the federal level right now, but state and local levels where entrepreneurs need to be the voice, right?
Yeah, we need lobbyists. Did you know that? I was just going to say Amazon and Facebook have two lobbyists, both of these companies, for every senator and for every congressperson. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio right now. That's
and
like
that
insane.
reality is that pays. I mean, that's just a business move, right? Yes. That pays them because their opinion is always talked about. The senator's voice is always reverberated right back to them, and they're able to say, okay, well, we're going to change this to fit what you're willing to vote for. And we as business owners need to do the same thing, because if we don't, we're giving up our voice without even saying a word. We're not even being asked. We're not a part of the conversation because we've removed ourselves from that conversation. And now we're sitting here going, I mean, it doesn't matter what you think about the last election. 50% of the nation hated who the other guy was, right? Yeah. Split right down the middle. How did we get there where we had two people that nobody could, if you liked one, you hated the other? How did we get there? It's because at every turn, we were not more proactive to say, you know what, let's get somebody more moderate on both sides of this issue, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you love Trump or hated Biden or loved Biden and hated Trump. You still saw where there was room to be more in the middle between the two. But we are so polarized because there's only one voice talking on each end, and it's the way outside. Instead of being the moderate voice of business that says, hey, listen, these policies are really good for us. What's going on at the border isn't great. You want to raise $15 an hour minimum wage, but we've got an open border situation that hurts that. How do we deal with amnesty in a logical way? We need somebody that's in the middle and it's moderate, right? So we've got a lot of issues there that if we were addressing as business owners from a business standpoint, this country is a freaking business, whether you like it or not, because of how many people are involved in the decision-making process. And it's one of the most beautiful things about the republic that we have is the fact that there are so many voices.
Right.
But we need to use them instead of not saying anything until it's too late and we're already silenced.
Oh, I agree. And I'm on board with that. I think that we need, a union. I mean, I talk about why can't we unionize? Why can't we make a small business union for small business owners? And then we can get better insurance deals. We can negotiate different things. And it just seems so insurmountable, but you have to start somewhere. Right. And that's why my other life, I'm an elected member of parliament for the nation of Asgardia. It's the world's first digital nation. We're 5 years in. We have several satellites that are up because the idea is when we go to space, this is what we'll have to do. We're negotiating with the European Space Agency. We want to get a module on the space station. We have research facilities all over the world. But one of the biggest things we are working on right now is getting businesses up and having a borderless nation, a digital nation where we have businesses. So I'm competing with hundreds of other people just to get my own business up. And I happen to be a member of parliament. So it's the idea that this landlocked, everybody wants their pound of flesh. Right. And it's by city, by county, by state, by country, and it's worldwide, is no longer serving us as a people, and so there's other ways to do it. And so this is actually half of my day is heavily involved in legislation and voting and creating something new that I know is going to be a powerful force, just because we have the money and the backing and the people and the lawyers. Really, it's a lot about the lawyers too around the world. Right. But anyway, that's off topic. So, okay. So so people can find you. We're getting to the end. I always run long with Shannon because it's just great conversations that are so important.
You can blame it on me because I love talking with you as well. It's just great.
I love it. Great. Okay. So we've been speaking with Shannon Robnett. That's ROBNETT. So you just go to shannonrobnett.com. You could also go to myverticalequity.com and reach Shannon, and you can find him on the road shows. He's pairing up with the Money Show, and as you know, I'm a big fan of the Money Show. Love being on there and having them all here. And so that's how you go and find him, shannonrobnett.com. Anyway, Shannon, I want to thank you for being here and giving us all of your expertise and giving us hope. We're going to be meeting in person. We're going to be educated. We're going to be investors, and all this great stuff is going to happen.
Jennifer, it's always my pleasure. I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be on your platform. It is truly a pleasure to meet somebody that is more passionate than I am. And I'm pretty passionate about my business, but you are so passionate about business. And I love hearing what you have to say. And I love being a part of your listeners' audience as well.
Man, I love you. And I love the compliments too. The women in Shannon's life, y'all have done a great job. Anyway, guys, this is the end of our show. Please like, follow, comment, and share. Give us that 5-star rating. It allows us to continue to have wonderful, passionate, and engaged people like Shannon on the show. Y'all have a wonderful week, and you just have a great time. Thanks from Entrepods. Bye-bye.
I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for listening, and please go give us a 5-star rating on your preferred listening platform if you enjoyed the show. This helps us reach more listeners like you and keep booking amazing guests. If you'd like to join our growing Entrepods community, want our social media links to like or share, or inquire about one-on-one strategy calls with our host Jennifer, please visit entrepods.com. See you next time, and here's to you and your best life imaginable.